here again for another edition of my book review. If you are new on this channel, I remain you can enjoy it. I want to remember to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also share the video. Today, I want to review another book from my favorite author, and the book I want to review today is titled "Producing Your Best Self from Your Higher Self," written by Reverend Chris Christian, the Shepherd of Mankind. Reverend Chris Christian is the General Overseer of Locust Army International Church. He's a preacher of God's Word and he's a prolific writer. He has written 280 books and still writing. He is the only African man to date who has written 280 books and still writing. Reverend Chris Christian is a sacred eunuch. He lives in Lagos, Nigeria. The book, Producing Your Best Self from Your Higher Self, is among the newest books of Reverend Chris Christian. The book is published this year, 2022, and it's 9 chapters. As usual, I'm going to take it chapter by chapter. So, don't go anywhere. Listen attentively. Chapter 1 is titled, Producing the Best Self from Your Higher Self. Producing the best self from your higher self is the most profitable thing a man can achieve for himself. God lives in the best self of men. Uniting with our higher self produces the best self from us. When Jesus united himself with Christ, his higher self, he produced Jesus Christ, the best self. It is impossible for someone who is not united with his higher self to attain immortality. A lot of adversaries are defeated as men move from the earth realm to the echelon of enlightenment, where their higher self is hidden in God. The higher self of every man is the second person of his thoughts. The only reasonable life we have is the life of our higher self. Except a man has the knowledge of what future holds for him, he can't be united with his higher self. The best people in eternity are those who produce their best self by uniting perfectly with their higher self. Now, chapter 2 is titled, The Best Self of Jesus Christ Made Him a Mediator Between God and Man. Jesus became completely God and completely man when he united with Christ. Uniting with Christ provided Jesus the opportunity of accomplishing his mediating assignment. As Christ, he laid hand on God, and as Jesus, he laid hand on men. Except we discover and unite perfectly with our higher self, we can produce the best self. The effort we make in seeking our higher self rewards in our preservation. Discovering our higher self improves the value of our humanity. Anyone who is separated from his true self has denied the existence of God. God hides himself in the true self of man. The humanity of Jesus was clothed with the divinity of God when Jesus united with Christ. We must not do anything with religion that despises the value of our humanity. The true self of every man is the house of God's light. God can be introduced on earth if men ignore the opportunity to unite with their higher self. Chapter 3 is titled, The Higher Self of Every Man Determine His Best Self. Discovering your higher self empowers you to produce your best self. God relates with every man through his higher self. Your higher self is the visionary self that is designed to preserve you. As important as our higher self is, it can't produce our best self except we introduce him. Unveiling the God in us empowers us to introduce our higher self. We are as valuable as the way we relate with our higher self. While God depends on our humanity to introduce our higher self, he depends on our higher self to preserve our humanity. Your best self is always better than your higher self. If God can't function on earth without man, we must not despise all that can be achieved in our flesh. We must not expect God to do for us what we are meant to do for ourselves. What we do for ourselves is far more important than what we want God to do for us. Chapter 4 is titled, Discovering and Uniting with Your Higher Self Empowers You to Produce Your Best Self. Anyone who didn't discover his or her true self is counted with the lost. Producing the best self is not possible for those who don't know who they are. Life actually starts after we have discovered who we are. Your true self is the real you, but you can't produce the best self except the real you unite perfectly with the outward man. The process that improves our human value is what produces the best self from us. What we achieve in life will always be controlled by what we make out of ourselves. As important as purpose is, uniting with our true self to produce the best self is far more important than any purpose we want to accomplish. The primary assignment of the true self of every man is to produce the best self from the man. The true self of every man is constant, but the outward man can be improved. No matter how attractive the best of another person is, you need to become your best self. We are as important as what we accomplish, and the best thing to accomplish is to produce our best self. Now, chapter 5 of this book is titled Mingling Your Humanity Perfectly with the Divinity of God. Mingling your humanity perfectly with the divinity of God. If we must partake in the divine nature of God, our vile humanity must be clothed with the divinity of God. The humanity of Jesus was clothed with the divinity of Christ to produce the best self from Him. In producing the best self, our bodies are as useful as our spirits. If our higher self must mingle perfectly with the outward man, we must study the way we think. We live what we think and think what we live. God must raise men who think like the Lion of Judah if the destiny of this economic millennium must be declared. Men relocate to an improved echelon when they dwell meditatively on the thoughts of their higher self. We need to make deliberate efforts to clothe our humanity with the divinity of God. God needs our best to achieve the best on earth. Those who deny the opportunity for their higher self to unite with the outward man will not be immortalized. Chapter 6 is titled Uniting the Inward Man with the Outward Man Produces the Best Self from Us. All who desire to produce the best self from their higher self must unite with the outward man with the inward man. The outward man is fragile and weak, hence needs to be clothed with the strength of the inward man. The outward man must take an inward journey to unite with the inward man. Groaning and pain can end in the lives of men until the outward man is clothed with the inward man to produce the best self. Death was swallowed up in victory when the immortality of Jesus was swallowed up by the divinity of Christ. The path that the outward man follows to the inward man is made in vision. It is only through detailed relationships with the spirit of vision that we can produce the best self. Those who pay attention to themselves shall receive attention from God. The 7 is titled Thinking from Yourself. Thinking from yourself. We were all born to think from ourselves. The most important and powerful thing a man can accomplish in his life is to think from himself. Every man's life is protected by his thoughts. We share destiny only with those we share in their thoughts. God pays attention to only those who pay attention to themselves. The greatness of every great man is in what the man makes out of himself. God depends on the power of exchange to accomplish divine purpose on earth. Man is an embodiment of his thoughts. Those who don't care about what they think can't live right. The lives of men are transformed when their thought is imparted by vision. As a man thinks, that is how he is. The greatest thing thought impartation achieves in men is character molding. Chapter 8 is titled Living for the Visionary Personality in You. We are expected to live for the visionary personality in us if we must produce our best self. The best thing that can happen to any man is to live for his visionary self. Living for the visionary personality in you is living for God and your higher self. Men deny God and disconnect from their future when they ignore their visionary self. The visionary self of every man is where God lives in the man. It is also the meeting point between God and the man. People are said to be destroyed when they fail to discover the visionary's personality in them. If we want to fulfill a great destiny, we can't look outside ourselves. Jesus couldn't lose his life because he died the best death. Jesus produced his best self when the visionary Christ immortalized him. Chapter 9 is titled Allow Your Higher Self to Pattern You. Being patterned by our higher self produces the best from us. We are not free to become whatever we want because we have lived before we were born. Those who pay needed attention to their higher self don't struggle with what to think and how to think. Our higher self is the best thing we have, but our best self is the best thing we can become. What we will become is always better than who we are. The visionary Christ protected the man Jesus by taking care of his thoughts. Satan devalues men by depleting their thoughts. Fellowshipping with the thoughts of our higher self is being perfect. It is winning internal battles against the devil. The greatest service we can render to God as a man is to look like him. Yes, you need to get a copy of this book, Producing Your Best Self from Your Higher Self, at Shekinah Bookshop, located at Locust Army International Headquarters Church at the road Aja, Lagos, Nigeria. Or you can call these phone numbers 080-381-38751 or 080-3377-8843 to book your copy. You can also visit www.shekinahmediahouse.com to get the soft copy. Thank you so much for being part of this interesting edition of my book review. Remember to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also share the video. And don't forget to drop your comments in the comment box. See you again in my next edition. Bye.